magic as the manifestation of the trained and focused will. This is the seed from which Levi's conception of magic unfolded. The many echoes of Schopenhauer in Levi's work likely also played an important role in making the doctrine and ritual of high magic as popular as it was. For European avant-garde culture from the 1850s to the First World War was saturated with ideas drawn from Schopenhauer, and readers steeped in that milieu must have found themselves on familiar ground as they considered Levi's interpretation of magic. More generally, it was because Levi wrote as a man of his time, interested in the same intellectual currents that were steering the minds of many thoughtful people in the middle of the 19th century, that his work had such an impact. Other authors in France and elsewhere had written about occult topics in the decades immediate before the Doctrine and Ritual of High Magic saw print, but their approach to magic was by and large motivated by a rejection of the modern thought of their time, and so had little impact. Levi's genius was that he made magic relevant to his world and to ours. It was on the basis of that solid foundation in contemporary thought that Levi proceeded to the most daring aspect of his study of magic. Like the insights offered by Vico and Schopenhauer, the three of Levi's themes already covered, while not uncontroversial, fit without too much difficulty into the worldview common to Levi's age and to ours. The same cannot be said of the fourth and most important theme of Levi's work, the astral light. This is Levi's name for a concept familiar to nearly all students of spirituality in one form or another. A subtle medium that bridges the gap between one mind and another, has deep, if obscure, connections to the sun and the phenomenon of biological life, and can be concentrated, dispersed, and charged with intention by those who know its secrets. The astral light is the prana of the Hindu scriptures, the key of Chinese tradition, the ruach of Jewish law, the pneuma of the ancient Gnostics, and the anima mundi of medieval and Renaissance Christianity. The Japanese call it ki, the Arabs ruh, the Yoruba emi, the Iroquois orenda, and the Kung hunter-gatherers of the Kalahari Desert This list could be extended almost indefinitely. In fact, around the world and across centuries, very nearly the only human cultures that have no common name for this medium are the societies of the modern industrial West. Levi was not the first figure to attempt to reintroduce this concept to the collective conversation of Western society. The most famous of his predecessors, Franz Anton Mesmer, 1734 to 1815, called that subtle medium animal magnetism and developed an entire system of medical therapeutics that make use of it. A few scraps of that system, wrenched out of their original context and carefully cleansed of their original connection to occultism, make up the current practice of hypnotism. Mesmer was inevitably dismissed as a quack, a fate he has shared with many more recent discoverers of the same principle. In speaking of the astral light and describing it as the great magical agent, the connecting link that enables magic to reach beyond the boundaries of any one mind, Levi thus places himself squarely in the mainstream of the world's magical traditions. In the 19th century, furthermore, he was not quite as far from current scientific thought as he has since become. The physicists of his time theorized that all forms of energy were vibrations in a subtle substance called the ether, which filled the entire universe. Levi was familiar with the theory and suggested that the astral light might well be an ancient name for the ether, but he did not place any great importance on the identification. His goal was simply to explain the astral light in terms that his readers would find it easy to understand.